Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Buffalo Sports Talk of Western New York. I'm Tom Hastings, my partner Tom Joyce, and today, let's talk the history of the Buffalo Braves. I'm really looking forward to this show today, Tommy. We both are in our gear, our Buffalo Braves gear. Just want to give me a quick thought before we start talking about the statistics and the history of the team. What did it mean to you to have an NBA team in Buffalo back when we were growing up?
Yeah, the NBA at the time, I don't think they were quite the behemoth they are today, right? It was a league that, this is Larry Bird and Magic Johnson days when the league started to really take off. But it was still an important league, and there was still a lot of great players, iconic franchises like the Celtics, the Lakers, and to have a team competing against them, be able to go down to the odd and watch that team compete, and they were a good team. I think that a lot of people who don't remember the Braves, and really when we talk about the success, the team had a lot of success, and it's really unfortunate that they weren't able to hang on into the modern era.
It was one of the tragedies of my young life because I used to have one of those basketball hoops, you would put into the door in my bedroom, and I would just be shooting hoops, pretending I was Bob McAdoo and Randy Smith and Ernie D. I just loved the Buffalo Braves. My dad had season tickets. My uncle Don was running the Odd Club back in those days, and my dad was able to score tickets in the front row, right across from the bench. And I would sit there as a young boy and watch, like O.J. Simpson and Reggie McKenzie and Joe DeLamielleure walk past me, and I'd just be like in amazement. And then to watch these players, they were such an exciting and good team in the mid-1970s. And when they moved away, and the reason they moved away, it was just a shame.
Yeah.
And we're going to get all into that right now. And we're going to start off with we're going to be showing some great highlights. So if any old-time fans out there who remember the team but haven't seen them in a long time, I think you're going to enjoy the highlights that I share on this video because I found a lot of them, and there's a lot of great footage. And it's just great to see like those guys again, because it's been so many years.
Be prepared for short shorts and high socks.
They were sexy, that's for sure. Anyway, before we get going, guys, if you give us a like and a subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time we upload a new video. And leave a comment down below. Give us some ideas of some shows you would like us to do on Let's Talk. Remember, this is a show on our channel where we like to talk a lot about nostalgic things, historical sporting events in the Buffalo area. And I just love talking about this stuff, Tom.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Buffalo Braves real quick now. The team comes into the league to the NBA in 1970, which was a great year for the NBA. If you remember, that was the year Willis Reed and the New York Knicks winning the World Championship. And Willis Reed, I think, did it with a broken leg, if my memory serves correctly, too.
Frazier, yeah.
And with Walt Frazier and Earl of Pearl Monroe. Yeah. But 1970 was a huge year in sports for Buffalo, period. Besides the Braves coming into existence, it was also the first year of the Buffalo Sabres and the year that the Buffalo Bills joined the NFL officially. It was the merger between the AFL and the NFL, and the Bills officially became a part of the NFL in 1970. So 1970 was a huge, huge year for Buffalo sports fans everywhere. But the Buffalo Braves come into the league, and there was supposed to be a 4-team expansion in the NBA in 1970. It was supposed to be Houston, Portland, Cleveland, and Buffalo. But Houston lost its backers and had to drop out, so it only ended up being Cleveland, Buffalo, and Portland. Houston would end up getting a team in 1971 when the San Diego Rockets moved to Houston. So Houston wasn't without a team for very long. But Paul Snyder was our original owner of the Buffalo Braves, and he sold his stock in Freezer Queen, and he bought the team for $4 million in 1970. Isn't that crazy?
$4 million professional sports franchise. To think of that now, that's a month's salary for the top players.
They played their first game on October 14th against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they win 107-92. Their first coach was Dolph Shays, who was a Hall of Fame player, and he led the team in that first season to only a 22-60 record. And he's replaced by a guy that I think is really one of the most underrated coaches for any Buffalo franchise in the history of Buffalo sports, and that's Dr. Jack Ramsey. Jack Ramsey was just, when you think of him with those Herb Tarlick pants, what did they call them back in the 70s?
He had the plaid sport coat.
The plaid, yeah. He was quite a character, but a great coach. And by 1972, the Braves draft a guy out of Virginia named Bob McAdoo, who becomes an icon for me in my youth. And Tommy, you think of some of the sports heroes in those days for Buffalo, and Bob McAdoo is right up there. Yeah. And as soon as he joins the team, you can see that their fortunes change almost overnight. McAdoo wins Rookie of the Year. He goes the next year that they make the playoffs for the first time in franchise history, and he leads the league in scoring and becomes MVP in 75. He's just a mega star, and this team had so much promise in those 3 seasons, 73, 74, 74, 75, 75, 76. They make the playoffs all 3 times. Yeah. And they lose out in 74 to Boston. In 75, they play the Washington Bullets, and they have a great series. And they lose in Game 7. But again, you could see the attendance was picking up for the Braves. They're starting to become a huge team, get a huge following in Buffalo. And the next season in 75-76, they make the playoffs again, and they win their first round playoff series against Philadelphia 76ers. They lose out in the playoffs to Boston, who went on to win the championship. Yeah. And before we go on to what happened after that, let's mention some of the names of some of these players that played on this team. And especially if you're an old school sports fan like we are, these names are going to bring back some great memories for you. We're talking about Ernie D.
Ernie D. He was a guy who a lot of us looked up to because he was, small in stature compared to most of the guys he was playing with and against. But he made it work through just boundless hustle.
I just remember Ernie D. from Providence. He won Rookie of the Year the year after Bob McAdoo won Rookie of the Year. Again, the promise was there for this team. Yeah. And if we had any ownership that would have just kept applying, and adding on more players and helping build it around McAdoo, I think we would have won a championship before the decade would have been over. But unfortunately, that's not the way it went. Yeah. We have to talk about Buffalo's own Randy Smith as well. Yeah. He was there right from the beginning, and Randy is one of the most underappreciated, I think, stars in the 1970s NBA. Yeah. He would lead the league in assists. He was just a great player, and he just played off of Bob McAdoo so well. It was just, he was just a great player, and he was right here in Buffalo. Yeah. You talk about players like John Shoemate, who was a Notre Dame great, who came on and helped push our team to that playoff run. Bob Kaufman. Talk about Adrian Dantley, another great name. Yeah. From the past. And a lot of people don't realize this, but near the end when the team started, when they changed ownership and they started getting rid of players, the Braves actually had Moses Malone on the team for only 2 games, but he was traded away to Houston right after that. He only played like 6 minutes in Buffalo. But what that could have done to that team. Yeah. Just for a minute, think about Jim McMillan, Adrian Dantley, Bob McAdoo, Randy Smith, and Moses Malone on the same roster. Yeah. Now, again, for young kids, we're saying these names and they're like, who? Yeah. But I'm telling you, these were like LeBron and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. They were that quality of players. And Jim McMillan had won a NBA title with the Lakers as well. So they were just a team put together, but they just had so many odds against them. And number one, from the very start in 1970, Tommy, when they played their games at the Odd, but the Sabres were playing at the Odd at the same time, and the Odd had a contract with Canisius Griffins, who at the time were more popular than the Buffalo Braves, and the ownership of the Odd favored Canisius and the Buffalo Sabres over the Braves. The Braves were always number 3.
Yeah, that Little 3 basketball was huge back then, and it was as big, as professional sports at the time. And the Braves were forced to play 16 home games in Toronto because again, they were third on the pecking order in terms of scheduling games at the Odd.
Yeah, they tried to sell it as international, games because at the time Toronto didn't have their own franchise. So yes, between 1970 and 1976, they played there 16 times, and that also was a problem in the NBA. They gave the Braves a deadline of 5 years to figure it out and come up with a solution because they always had to wait to make the Braves schedule until the Sabres schedule came out in order to get TV time and to see when they were going to play in the Odd. And it ended up causing a lot of grief and a lot of stress and tension between Schneider and the owners of the Sabres and the people that ran Canisius. It ended up being a very bitter rivalry between the three, and it's a shame because we've mentioned so many times Buffalo is such a great sports city, and to be able to have a professional basketball team. It was such a great time for me. I just and again, I loved having the Braves here.
Yeah, and like I said, it's almost like they were set up to fail in a way with that arrangement down at the Odd. It's really unfortunate. They were never given the opportunity to really, hold their own and show what they're capable of because they were, as I said, they're third in the pecking order, and it was a time when the Sabres were commanding a lot of the media attention here. And like you said, the college basketball was huge, and the Braves were the odd man out, which is interesting to say for one of the best teams in the league.
It's hard to even fathom because they had so much success.
Yeah.
And like I said, 74, 75, and 76. And they had one of the elite biggest stars in the entire league on the team with Bob McAdoo. And, you got to, when you mention McAdoo, you got to talk about Danny Nethereth, who's a local legend, and he was the Odd PA announcer, and he was the guy who came up with the iconic two for McAdoo. That's right. And he also used to, when Randy Smith would score, he'd go, Randy!
Two for McAdoo is well known to local sports fans of a certain age as any other phrase or any other term associated with professional sports in Buffalo.
And it's all thanks to Buffalo legend Danny Nethereth. Another great name
I think he's still alive.
He is still alive. I just saw a video of him at Chef's restaurant. He was being interviewed by Bob Kaczynski.
He's a legend.
And he's, I believe, 86 years old, and he still looks healthy. He still has a great sense of humor and a lot of energy. I was shocked seeing how alive and full of passion he still is, and God bless him for that.
Yeah.
But back to the Buffalo Braves. In 1976, Schneider actually wanted to move the team to Miami, and the city of Buffalo sued him to keep him here, and he does agree to another 5-year lease in Buffalo. But because of all the tensions going on and the infighting with Canisius and the Sabres, Schneider decides to sell the team to John Y. Brown, who is a former Kentucky Fried Chicken investor. And he also was an owner of the ABA's Kentucky Colonels. And he buys the team up from Schneider, and he sees the clause in the contract, and he becomes friends with Boston Celtic owner Irv Levin, who was a Hollywood producer and wanted to move the Boston Celtics to Los Angeles, to California, to get back on the coast again. And John Brown works out a deal with Levin to switch teams, and where Brown would become the new owner of the Celtics and Levin the new owner of the Braves. And the NBA allowed this to happen because they didn't want the Boston Celtics to move to California because the Celtics are probably the most iconic team in NBA history, and they didn't want to see the move. So there was this clause in the Buffalo contract with the Odd that said that they had to have 5,000 season ticket holders a season, or else they would be able to move if they didn't hit that quota. So what Levin does is he starts dismantling the team. He gets rid of Moses Malone, as I mentioned, after only 2 games. He gets rid of Bob McAdoo, which was one of the saddest days of my life, seeing one of my heroes leave the team. He gets rid of Jim McMillan. He gets rid of Adrian Dantley. He gets rid of all the great stars of the team. And the next 2 seasons, they lose 52 games and then 55 games, back to back. And they didn't sell over 5,000 season tickets. Obviously, it was a dumpster fire. And Levin moves the team to San Diego. They become the San Diego Clippers. And eventually he moves them to Los Angeles, where they still are to this day, the Los Angeles Clippers. And it ends a great legacy of our Buffalo Braves, a team that was only in existence, Tommy. It doesn't seem possible, but they were only around from 1970 to 1978. But give me your thoughts, what you felt when they moved out.
It was a blow, because here you've got a team that had a fervent fan base that had been treated really poorly, and it just felt like a betrayal the way that the team was sold off in pieces and then eventually moved. And I think a lot of Buffalo sports fans that era still have a bitter taste in their mouth. And unfortunately, the team over the years forgotten. I actually, I had students over the last several years of my teaching. They were basketball players that did not know that Buffalo had a professional sports franchise until I told them.
Well,
14-year-olds, they said, "What are you saying?" I said, there was a professional NBA team in Buffalo. They were shocked. Right. It was really unfortunate.
Yeah, and we talk about 1970 to 1978 is like, especially with our age now, it's like 8 years is nothing.
Yeah.
But we were 6 years old, to like 14
right.
when they moved out.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the most important years of a young boy's life,
right.
where you're developing and becoming, you're discovering who you want to be, and falling in love with things for the first time. Mm-hmm. And my love, thanks to my dad and his passion for sports and all things sports, we had season tickets to the Sabres, to the Braves, and to the Bills. And it was a time when you could afford that as a family. Yeah. We mentioned in our video on Table Talk about college football now, treating players like they're pros and paying them $6 million a year to play. But think about it, $6 million for a college football player to play on a team, and the Buffalo Braves were sold for $4 million.
I remember going to Braves games and paying $6 for a ticket.
It was, I believe, because I lost one of the sad things. I had 2 programs that I kept with me, and I lost them in a move. And it breaks my heart because I kept them for so many years. And when I got divorced in 2015, I think I left them behind. And so and I kept those from 1970 something to 2015 before I lost them. But I remember looking up the prices. They had the prices in the program was $6, $8, $10, and then the tickets that my dad had were $12. Yeah. That was the most expensive to be on the floor. $12. Now, to put it into 2026 perspective, I went to see Bruce Springsteen 2 years ago and got floor seats for $500 a piece. So it was a different time, a different era, and but it was a glorious time.
Yeah, and my interest in the NBA never recovered, to be honest with you, once the Braves left.
I lost interest as soon as they left.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing that's funny is, like, I was never a guy that excelled in sports. I played all of them. I played football, and I was a guy that, I was a reserve,
right.
and I was, a little guy when I was growing up. I tried baseball, and my brother was a great catcher. My cousin John was a great pitcher, and I was a guy that played 2 or 3 innings. you know. But I excelled in my early days at basketball. I was in a basketball league when they had the boys club and I was a captain of my team and led the league in scoring and stuff. And for some reason, I had a great shot, and that was like my sport that I was actually really good in. For a short guy, I was a shooting guard.
Yeah.
And when the Braves moved out of town, I just lost my passion for it. I never joined the high school team.
Yeah.
I just gave up on it, and it's a shame because I love that team so much. And you just think about it, as I mentioned earlier in the video, if they just had an owner that would have kept Jack Ramsey. And I'll talk about Jack Ramsey, as I said, what a great coach he was. They get rid of him after the 76 season. He goes to Portland and wins the championship 1977, the season the Braves get rid of him.
Yeah.
So if the Braves would have just
hung in there
another year,
yeah,
there's a good chance they could have been NBA champions, you know, their fourth run into the playoffs. It was not meant to be, and I still miss them to this day.
There's been a lot of talk over the years about bringing back an NBA franchise, Buffalo, but it's never really got to the serious stage, and I don't think it's really on anyone's radar at this point. I'm not sure why, but Buffalo's never really considered as a prime candidate for an NBA team, and I just think that's the reality of the situation.
It is, but you know, they always do well when they have the March Madness here,
Yeah, they
you
do.
know, and I think there would be a fan base, but it's tough because now with the prices that we mentioned, you know, I'm spending a fortune getting season tickets to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
And I haven't had season tickets to the Sabres. I usually only go to 1 or 2 games a year if I get a chance to do that, you know, just for fun.
Yeah.
So adding another pro team would be, I don't know if we could afford it in this area.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I would love to have the Braves back. The Clippers do pay homage to the team every once in a while by wearing the throwback uniform. But, you know, as much as I try, I can't throw my support. You know, people say, oh, you can support the Clippers.
Yeah.
They're 3,000 miles away.
Exactly.
You know, and I can't support Toronto because they're Toronto.
Yeah.
I'm taught to hate them because of the Maple Leafs.
Leafs. Yeah.
You know, so I can't support them. My brother-in-law, my sister lived in Cleveland. I tried to support the Cleveland Cavaliers for a while, you know, thinking, you know, that's my team. I got family out there. And they won the championship, and I could have cared less.
Yeah.
It was not the same as like if
when you have your own.
the Bills win a Super Bowl, the Sabres win a Stanley Cup, or if the Braves would have won the NBA championship. So it's just something that I don't think in our lifetime we'll ever see NBA basketball back again.
Yeah.
But that's going to do it for this episode of Let's Talk, guys. Really great to just take a walk back into the 1970s and to talk about this team because they meant so much to me. And to mention those names again, to mention, you know, Randy Smith passed away, you know, but to mention him, to mention Bob McAdoo, of course, and John Shoemate and Adrian Dantley, Bob Kaufman, and Ernie D.
Yeah.
And Jack Ramsey. They just bring back some of the happy memories of my youth. Any final thoughts from you, Tom?
Yeah, I think that, you know, people of a certain age look back fondly at the Braves. There's a lot of, you know, what could have happened, you know, if there would have been more support from ownership, if they could have figured out the scheduling down at the arena better, and, you know, to think that we might still have a team today competing in the Eastern Conference in the NBA, and you know it would be something that the young people could, you know, latch on to enjoy the way that we did when we were young.
Right. It would have been great, and I think if they won a championship in the 70s, say if they would have stayed together and kept that team together and win in 77, I have no doubt that they would have at least stayed, you know, on for another decade or more.
Yeah.
Here, you know, I don't know. Again, as we talk about ticket pricing and we talk about, you know, you have to make a choice. You know, like I have to make that choice with the Bills. And do I go to a Sabres game? My wife likes Shays, so we go to the Bills and she goes to Shays. That's our choice, and I have to do that to be fair with my wife. You know. So there's just only so much money to go around, and everything is just so outrageously expensive nowadays that I don't know if the team would ever be able to be prosperous here in this small market.
Right.
But between 1970 and 1978, we had the great pleasure of having that team, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. That's going to do it for Let's Talk this week. We're going to do should I tell them?
Go ahead.
Controversial subject matter for next week's Let's Talk. But I think it's a really important subject matter. We're going to stick in the 1970s and talk about a guy that we grew up with that was a big hero of ours, but then a dark turn happened in the 1990s and that changed everything. And next week's Let's Talk is going to be about O.J. Simpson and what he meant to us as kids and how we feel now. How do we talk about that legacy?
Yeah.
And what does it mean to us now? Obviously everything changed on that night in 1993. So we're going to discuss that, and I think that's going to be a really interesting subject matter for you. So that'll be next Wednesday. Feel free to tune in and watch it. Give us a like and a subscribe, guys. Hit that bell icon to get notified. Give us a comment down below. Let us know what you thought about it. If you have any memories of the Buffalo Braves, share them with us. We'd love to hear them. And share with us some ideas that you would like some stories you'd like us to cover on Let's Talk here. If you have some sports memory in the Buffalo area, give us some thoughts, and we'd love to look into it and maybe do a show just for you. So, and what did I say? We're only like 15 subscribers away from being able to go live and making some live videos, and we want to do that. When the Buffalo Sabres make the playoffs, we would love to make a few live videos, maybe even going down to the arena and catching some of the excitement before that pregame. So, guys, that's going to do it for Let's Talk. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing and giving us your support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel and you're watching a video, please, it doesn't cost anything. Hit the subscribe button. We could really use you. And share this video with your friends. Tell them to subscribe. Mention it to them. We anything you can do to help us out, we would appreciate. We're a small channel. We know that. We're always going to be a small channel, but we would love to reach as many of you as we possibly can. So with that being said, Tom, thanks for joining me again this week. Fun. And we'll see you next Monday for Table Talk, and then again next Wednesday for Let's Talk. But until then, guys, have a great rest of your week, and
go Clippers.
I gotta go beat Tommy up now, so go Buffalo. We'll see you next time.